Sometimes, when a person with avoidant habits secretly wants you back, they do not begin by reaching out. They do not text first. They do not call. More often, they stay close in quiet ways, hovering at the edge of your life where they can still feel connected without having to face what reconnecting would really ask from them. That difference matters. It matters because silence can make you believe they never cared, when in many cases the truth is much more mixed, much more messy, much more human. They may still feel pulled towards you while being just as scared of what it would mean to come near again. So instead of saying, I miss you, or admitting they regret how things ended, they watch from a safe distance. They check your social media. They view every story. They scroll through your posts and quietly notice who you are with, where you are going, how you are changing, and how you are learning to live without them. All of that can happen without one message landing in your inbox. And while they stay hidden, you are left with the silence. You are left guessing. You are left trying to make peace with the idea that if they cared, surely they would say something. But sometimes behind that silence, they ask mutual friends about you in a casual voice that hides more than it reveals. How are they doing? Are they okay? Have they moved on? Are they seeing someone? Is there still a chance? These are the quiet questions people ask when they want closeness without risk. Stay with me here, because this part changes how you see the whole thing. Some keep the door cracked in very small ways. They leave you unblocked. They watch without following. They stay just far enough away to avoid being seen, but close enough to feel like the connection never fully died. And from your side, all you feel is the ache of being left in the dark. Every now and then, something small shakes you. Their name appears in your story views. A random like shows up. You notice they keep appearing in the few places where your worlds still touch. Tiny moments, tiny signals, but they land hard when you are still healing. Because when your heart has not fully settled, small things do not feel small. They feel loaded. They feel like clues. They feel like maybe. And for the avoidant person, that quiet orbit can become a compromise with fear. They replay old talks in their head. They remember the places you went together, a song, a street, a joke, a late night drive, a certain kind of silence, and suddenly your memory is there again, close enough to touch. But actually reaching out feels dangerous. What if you reject them? What if you have changed? What if you ask the questions they never wanted to answer? What if they have to face the hurt they caused, the apology they never gave, the promises they did not keep? So they stay nearby in ways that do not require full honesty. They tell themselves watching is enough. Knowing you are okay is enough. Remaining somewhere in your digital world is enough. But it is not only about missing you, it is also about managing themselves. If they see you struggling, they may feel guilty, but also strangely comforted that they still matter. If they see you becoming stronger, they may feel proud, relieved, and at the same time afraid that you are healing so well you may never let them back in. Meanwhile, you are doing the hard part. You are rebuilding your life while carrying questions that do not leave easily. If they wanted me, would they not reach out? If they cared, would they not fight for this? Those questions make sense. But wanting someone back in secret is not the same as being ready to love them well in real life. Feelings alone do not create safety. Feelings alone do not rebuild trust. And that is where so many people get trapped. They mistake hidden emotion for real readiness. When someone like this starts feeling the pull to reconnect, they usually do not begin with a big confession. They rarely come in with direct words and open emotion. Instead, they stay close without truly stepping forward. They watch your healing like it is a story unfolding in front of them. They look for signs. They look for softness. They look for any clue that your feelings have not fully gone away. And often they hold on to the comforting idea that they could come back whenever they are finally ready. That is one of the hardest parts to accept, because while you are doing the painful work of letting go, they may be doing the easier work of keeping the possibility alive in their own head. It feels unfair because it is unfair. This kind of orbit is not love in its healthiest form. It is affection limited by fear. It is connection filtered through distance. It is longing that never becomes responsibility. That is why your focus cannot become decoding every story view, every like, every little online move. Your focus has to stay on what healthy love actually looks like. Real love does not hide forever. It does not stay safe in the shadows while you carry the emotional cost. Real love takes responsibility. It speaks clearly. It risks discomfort. It risks being seen. It risks hearing no. And yes, it is possible that someone thinks about you far more than you know while still being unable or unwilling to show up in any real way. That is the important line. Secret feelings matter far less than steady action. And as time goes on, those quiet signs may become a little more obvious. A random like, a short reply to your story, a small inside joke sent through a message. These gestures often feel safer to them than saying, I miss you or I am sorry for how I treated you. Behind those crumbs is often a battle they are having with themselves. One part says, leave it alone. Another part keeps drifting back to your photos, your words, your energy, your memory, the comfort they once found with you. So they choose the smallest move possible, just enough to feel a thread, not enough to be fully accountable. And if you are not careful, that tiny move can wake up a lot inside you. Maybe they like a recent picture where you look brighter than before. Maybe they suddenly react to an older post. Maybe they send one short message that looks harmless to everyone else, but not to you. Because to you, it is never just a click, never just an emoji, never just a joke. To you, it carries history. It carries the late nights, the silence, the hope, the confusion, the moments when you begged for a little warmth and got almost nothing back. So when their name appears again, your body reacts before your mind has time to catch up. Your heartbeat shifts, your chest tightens, old hope wakes up. It happens fast. And when someone with avoidant habits starts acting differently after time apart, it is easy to mistake what you see. Sometimes what looks like coldness is actually self-protection. Sometimes what looks like care is only curiosity. Sometimes what looks like a return is only a check-in meant to calm their own uncertainty. That is why you have to look slowly. Really look. A simple message may come in saying, hey, I noticed you have not posted much lately. Everything okay? It sounds thoughtful. And maybe part of it is. But under that, there may also be another need. They no longer know where they stand in your life and that not knowing bothers them. They want reassurance that they still exist somewhere in your thoughts. They want to test the emotional temperature without stepping into a deeper talk. Other times, the signal shows up dressed as humor, a teasing comment about someone in your photo, a playful line about how different you seem now, how busy your life looks, how much has changed. It may sound light, but sometimes moments like that are covering a more uncomfortable truth. They are seeing that your life did not stop after they left. You kept moving. You met new people. You made new memories. You received care they once struggled to give. And that can stir curiosity, insecurity, and even jealousy. Watch this closely because this is where many people confuse attention with growth. Someone noticing your glow is not the same thing as them becoming capable of keeping your heart safe. For you, these little moments can hit hard. Your heart wants to connect the dots. If they did not care, why are they still watching? Why are they liking my photos? Why are they bringing up old memories? Those questions are natural. Of course they are. Small actions can carry emotional weight, especially when they come from someone who once mattered deeply. And yes, those gestures can mean something. They may show you are still on their mind. They may reveal unfinished feelings or a conflict inside them that you cannot fully see. But feelings are not the same as readiness. Missing someone does not mean they are ready to rebuild trust. Regret does not mean they have changed their habits. Longing does not mean they can now give you honesty, effort, and steadiness. That is the line you have to protect with everything you have. These small interactions may help them feel safer, but they do not automatically give you clarity, security, or the consistency you deserve. They are checking the water with one foot while you are the one who survived the storm. And because your heart remembers the closeness you once had, it is tempting to treat every breadcrumb like the beginning of real reconciliation. But do not forget yourself in that moment. Do not lose the version of you that fought hard to heal. If every tiny message gets the same emotional access as a real apology, then nothing pushes the conversation deeper. Nothing requires growth. Nothing demands honesty. Real repair asks for more than a late night hey. It asks for acknowledgement. It asks for responsibility. It asks for change you can actually see over time. This is where your power starts coming back. Instead of only asking what this means for them, ask what you need now. Ask what would make you feel emotionally safe. Ask whether they have shown the honesty, the consistency, and the effort that match your standards now, not the standards you used to accept when you were more afraid to lose them. That matters more than decoding any notification. And if your answer is no, you are allowed to treat their message exactly as it is, a small interaction, not a promise, not proof, not a future. Sometimes, instead of offering a clear apology, they try to slip back into your life through casual contact. A meme late at night, a message saying this reminded me of you, a question they could easily answer on their own, a laughing emoji on your story, as if the silence between you never happened and nothing painful was left hanging in the air. Moments like that can leave you staring at your phone longer than you want to admit. Part of you still hopes. Another part remembers the unanswered texts, the difficult nights, the loneliness, the way you kept waiting for talks that never came. Casual contact can help calm their uncertainty without forcing them to face the harder truth. If you reply warmly, they may feel relieved. They may feel the connection is still there, still available, still possible. And that relief can soothe their anxiety without requiring them to say, I know I hurt you, or I have been thinking about what happened, or I understand why you pulled away from me too. Instead of carrying their half of the emotional weight, they may quietly hope you will carry most of it again, the way you perhaps did before. Sometimes they start talking as though the breakup barely happened. What's up? How have you been? How is life? The conversation skips over the silence as if silence does not leave scars. But you remember. You remember what those months felt like. You remember trying to rebuild confidence while wondering why they disappeared, why they turned cold, why they made you feel like asking for clarity was too much. If you answer, even politely, they may take it as a sign that communication is still open. Outwardly, they may act like reaching out was no big deal. But inside, they may have thought about it for days, even weeks before sending that small message. Admitting that level of vulnerability can feel too exposed for them, so they make it look casual instead. As you heal, these moments become easier to name for what they are, attempts to reconnect emotionally without fully accepting responsibility, attempts to enjoy your presence again without truly facing the past. And once you see that clearly, you stop giving casual contact more meaning than it has earned. Sometimes the message starts with something ordinary. They ask about a place you both used to go. They mention a movie you once loved together. They ask about a small favor you used to do for them. Do you remember the name of that cafe we liked? Do you still have that article you sent me? On the surface, it looks simple, practical, almost random, but underneath, there can be something else. A quiet wish to feel your familiar energy again without having to admit they miss talking to you. Making the message useful keeps it safe. It protects their pride. It lowers the emotional risk. If you ignore it, they can tell themselves it was only a question, nothing more. They never have to admit they reached out because they were lonely or nostalgic, or because the absence of you has started to feel heavier than they expected. Sometimes they use humor, an inside joke, a line that only the two of you would understand. A reference to a memory that instantly pulls you both into an older version of life. To anyone outside, it is just a joke. But to you, it carries years inside it. It carries your rhythm, your language, your shared world. And when you laugh, even for a second, that old rhythm comes back, familiar, warm, dangerous. Because for a moment, it can feel like nothing was ever broken. But notice what still is not happening. They are not naming the damage. They are not speaking directly about how things ended. They are not showing through steady words and repeated actions that they have become someone you can trust again. Instead, they stay close enough to feel intimacy without stepping fully into it. They circle it, they taste it, they borrow comfort from it, but they do not stand inside it with full honesty. This is where your growth becomes very important. Maybe there was a time when even these tiny moves felt like everything. A late night meme felt like hope. One joke felt like proof. One message felt like destiny returning, and your mind filled in all the blanks because your heart wanted a different ending so badly. But healing changes the questions. Instead of asking, do they secretly want me back? You start asking, is this the level of effort they are actually willing to offer? And maybe the bigger question is this: is that enough for me now? That question changes everything. You deserve someone who does not slip in through side doors hoping to avoid the hard talk. You deserve someone who knocks openly, waits honestly, and says, I understand the hurt I caused. I know what I risk losing. And if you allow it, I want to rebuild this the right way. Until someone's actions start matching that kind of accountability, casual contact usually tells you more about their comfort level than about your worth. And you are allowed to decide that halfway effort is no longer enough. Another confusing shift can happen when your healing becomes visible. Once your life starts feeling full again, some people who once seemed comfortable staying distant suddenly become more attentive. That can feel deeply confusing, especially after long stretches of emotional absence. For so long, the pattern may have been painfully clear. You reached out, they pulled back. You explained, they shut down. Your emotional energy revolved around whether they replied, how they sounded, whether they seemed warm or cold, close or far. Then something changes. You stop measuring your day by their attention. You put energy back into your own life. You stop checking who viewed your story and start checking in with your own emotional state. You stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing peace, routine, health, friends, work, goals, sleep, quiet, yourself. Little by little, your focus moves away from them and comes back to you. Whether or not they understand the full cost of that growth, they often notice the result. They do not see every tear, every journal page, every therapy session, every boundary you practiced, every morning you dragged yourself forward when your chest felt heavy. What they usually see is the outcome. They see confidence. They see movement. They see a life that no longer seems to revolve around them. Your messages get shorter. Your emotional availability is no longer automatic. The attention they once assumed would always be there starts to thin out. And for someone who got used to your steady presence, that absence can suddenly feel much bigger than they expected. So now they notice more. Now they comment on your change. Now they become curious about who you are becoming. But stay with this because it is important. Someone reacting to your growth is not the same as them being ready to protect it. Sometimes that curiosity comes out in subtle jealousy, questions about who you are with, comments about someone appearing in your photos, little remarks suggesting you moved on faster than they expected, and that can leave you spinning. Why would someone who once wanted distance now seem bothered by your independence? Part of the answer may be simple. Change feels real now. The version of you who waited is slowly disappearing, and in their place stands someone who is building a life that does not depend on their return. That can be hard for them to sit with, but being affected by your absence is not the same as being prepared to love you well. Feeling uneasy is not growth. Wanting your attention again is not the same as earning your trust again. And if you trade away the strength you fought to build just because someone starts looking your way once more, you can slip right back into the same cycle that hurt you before. Little by little, you may start shrinking again so they do not feel uncomfortable. You may soften boundaries so they do not feel left behind. You may become easier to access without asking them to become deeper, clearer, or more honest. And before you know it, you are carrying the emotional weight of the connection all over again. When someone seems conflicted, drawn to you one moment and distant the next, it is natural to want to understand every move. But your job is not to solve them. Your job is not to explain them to themselves. Your job is to stay connected to your own clarity. You can recognize that someone may be struggling inside without giving up the peace you built. You can understand their confusion without accepting confusion as enough. You can quietly say to yourself, if there is ever going to be a place for you in my life again, it will have to be built on honesty, consistency, accountability, and real effort. Not mixed signals, not borrowed closeness. Not moments that feel intense but go nowhere. If those things are missing, you do not have to slow your healing just because someone else has not finished facing their own patterns. And if that truth stings a little, stay with me, because this next part may be the one you need most. One of the hardest truths to accept is that a person can think about you often and still be unable or unwilling to show up the way you deserve. A lot of people revisit old relationships long after they end. They replay conversations. They remember certain places, songs, routines, quiet evenings, random smells, familiar roads. Even the way the light looked in certain moments can bring memories rushing back. Time changes perspective. It often softens denial. It gives people room to look at things differently than they did while they were in the middle of them. They may start reconsidering the arguments, the distance, the messages they left unanswered, the talks they avoided, the way they shut down when things became emotionally real. They may wonder whether they were fair, whether they misunderstood you, whether fear shaped choices they once defended without thinking twice. Those reflections can feel very real to them. They can be painful. They can even be sincere. But reflection alone does not rebuild trust. It is possible for someone to privately admit they handled things badly. They may remember the moments you asked for reassurance, the moments you tried to explain your pain, the moments you simply wanted to feel safe with them. Time can make what was easy to ignore become impossible to forget. Many people eventually start asking themselves uncomfortable questions. Why did I pull away? Why was closeness so hard for me? Why did I struggle to stay present when something important was happening? Those questions can be the beginning of real growth, but the beginning is not the same as the result. Inner questions are not the same as change behavior. Real growth is not measured by regret. It is measured by responsibility. People can spend months distracting themselves from hard feelings with work, social media, routines, noise, and new experiences, only to realize much later that the past still lives quietly inside them. They may imagine how things could have gone if they had answered differently, stayed softer, spoken more honestly, stayed present instead of running. Those what if thoughts can hurt. They can reveal not just what was lost, but what fear may have cost them. And still, even then, your future cannot be built on what they silently wish they had done. They may truly miss you. They may feel sadness. They may carry silent regret. They may even wish in private moments that they had treated you better, stayed longer, listened more, and hidden less. They may remember your patience, your support, your care, the way you tried to understand them even when they gave you very little to work with. With distance, people often see more clearly what someone brought into their life than they did while that person was still standing right there beside them. But here is the part that protects your heart. Their private thoughts, their silent apologies, their hidden longing, even if all of it is real, cannot become the base of your next chapter. Your heart was not broken by thoughts they kept inside. It was broken by actions, by choices, by silence, by inconsistency, by the absence of what you needed when you needed it most. And only actions can repair that kind of damage. Actions ask a person to face fear. Actions ask them to tell the truth. Actions ask them to break old habits and behave differently even when it feels uncomfortable. Actions are what turn regret into growth. Until those actions appear with consistency, whatever someone secretly feels is still their journey, not your responsibility. Their healing belongs to them. Their reflection belongs to them. Their lessons belong to them. Your task is different now. Your task is to remember that your love had value all along. Your presence mattered all along. And now your heart deserves a relationship where you do not have to guess, decode, or survive on scraps of possibility. You deserve love that is spoken plainly, love that is backed by steady action, love that does not ask you to abandon your peace just to keep a connection alive. So if someone from your past is quietly circling, watching, reacting, testing, wondering, let the truth be simple. Maybe they do miss you. Maybe they do think about you. Maybe part of them does want you back. But until that becomes honesty, responsibility, and real effort you can actually feel, it is still not enough. And if that gave you clarity, hold on to it. Because the goal is not to be chosen by someone who is unsure. The goal is to protect the version of you that finally remembered you deserve more.